All right, welcome everybody to the Connection Hangout. My name is Paul Tyra, and I'm joined by my co-host, David Asarno, out there in Atlanta, Georgia. How are you doing, David?
Hey, Paul. I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Fantastic. Looking forward to tonight, hearing about the great ASEA Ascent event. This was the second annual event, and we've got some great attendees tonight, so looking forward to getting that started. Want to let everyone know that one of our attendees is Brent Brooks, who usually moderates our comment thread, and so I'm going to try to do a dual activity here, or dual responsibility here, and talk to people on the comment thread.
So make sure you're posting a lot down there.
Yes, it's right underneath here. Post and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to see everyone's smiling faces. This is not a business presentation or a product overview. This is designed to connect to real people, getting real results. We have people from athletes to celebrities to corporate executives and other ASEA associates on these webinars. Again, so you can get a feeling for the culture behind ASEA. So again, this week is going to be phenomenal because one of the great incentive trips for ASEA is called the ASEA Ascent event there in Star Valley, Wyoming. So I'm going to pass it over to David so he can introduce tonight's guest. Go ahead, David.
Thanks, Paul. I'm excited because there's a couple things. One, I'm the new guy on the block, and I plan on going to this event next year, and I get to introduce some people who've become good friends, all of you that are online today. First, we have Gold Executive Tyler Brenchley. Tyler, and I just want to say I appreciate you. I've got spent a lot of time with working with the marketing things. The reason that I'm actually here is the persistence of Platinum Executive Brent Brooks. And Brent, you've become a dear friend as well. And I got to meet my brother and sister from another mother when I happened to be invited up to New York. Doctors Joe and Pilar Labriola, Platinum Executives, and along with you, Paul and Brent, you guys all came down when we did a big launch in Atlanta. So I'm just excited, and as I said, as the new kid on the block, I want to be where you just were. And let's start with Brent. Brent, tell us what it was like when you first arrived at the event in Afton.
Well, the first thing I noticed was how coordinated everything was. Our accommodations were fantastic. We got to stay in these neat little log cabins at the Corral Lodges there in Afton. And of course, when we walked in, the swag, I guess you'd say, was waiting for us. We had the events coordinators, Kim and Emily, did a great job. Allowing everything to match, the hats, the jackets, the shirts, match the travel chairs, the water bottles, everything was very color coordinated and matched very well. And what struck me right away was as we kind of caravaned down to the Trout Ranch for the first dinner was how warmly we were received and how it kind of feels like a family reunion in a way. These were mostly people that that all of us had met previously, so we're kind of rekindling old friendships, and then some other folks that maybe we didn't know as well we got to say hi to for the first time. We were welcomed very warmly by everyone, including the ASEA corporate team and the staff there, including some incredible chefs that we'll talk about here in a little bit, that were definitely a highlight of the event. So it was a warm welcome, to be sure.
Fantastic. And hey, Dr. Joe, as I remember pretty clearly driving up to that Trout Ranch and the drive up there, can you share with the viewers what that experience was like the first time you saw actually the Star Valley Trout Ranch?
Well, for me, it was kind of cool because, everywhere I look, being in New Jersey, there's a building. So when I looked around and there was actual grass and mountains and just the openness of everything was absolutely incredible. And then you drive up to the Trout Ranch and to see to know that you're going to be there and you're going to actually just finally connect with the wilderness and just nature and feeling so like, you know what, I'm going to kind of leave the world behind for a few days and really just get into what's going on here. It's pretty amazing. It's overwhelming to an extent because there's so much openness, but it's just a great feeling to be out there in the open. It's great.
Well, with a name like Star Valley Trout Ranch, I guess there's some fishing, and from what I hear, we have the captain of the winning team. So Tyler, how did you do it? What did you do? You're muted.
All right. You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I can't take all the credit because I had some amazing people with me. I had one person that was very, very well versed in fly fishing, and then another person that was brand new, and I had done it once, but we really just sat down before. We had a little opportunity to kind of determine our game plan, if you will, before the buzzer sounded, and just to give people kind of an idea of how it works. There were 8 different fishing holes available. There were 16 different teams of 3 people. One team had 4 people, and we had about 9 minutes in each position to fish. So we sat down and really just came up with the idea or the strategy that it really didn't matter how good of a fly fisherman we were. It didn't matter about how good we were casting, and we were watching a lot of other teams that were really focusing on casting and back and forth and trying to get the perfect cast. And we were really just more focused on the idea of you can't catch a fish if your lure isn't in the water. So we didn't care how it got there. We just wanted to get our lure in the water. And if that took 2 casts, it took 2 casts. And so we were constantly having our lures in the water. And if you've ever been around network marketers, they turn about every single thing into an object lesson. So we had a little object lesson about contacting and prospecting and the whole idea of, I mean, this trout farm was full of fish, but a lot of people would sit there and they would try to pick out, because it was based on inches, they would try to pick out the biggest fish they could see in the pond, and they'd try to cast it right to it. And they'd try 100 times to get it anywhere near it to try to get it enticed to bite. And our goal was, we don't care where the biggest fish was, we just wanted to catch fish. So we threw it in where it didn't matter. We were no respecter of size. We just threw it in there, got it in there as much as we could, and we caught a lot of fish. We caught our maximum fish. We actually had 4 fish that we couldn't even put on the card because we had filled up our card by the time we were done. So our whole goal was get the lure in the water, cast it to wherever, because it doesn't matter if it's full of fish. Don't pick your fish. Let the fish pick the lure. So that was really our strategy behind the whole thing, was just get in the water and let the fish come to you. Don't try to pick your fish.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember that experience. So it's nothing like it, and that was my first fly fishing experience too when I went last year, and it is such a blast because yeah, those ponds are stocked and really amazing. All right, let's shift over to the skeet range. I heard there was an interesting competition going on over there, and I'd like to first off have Brent give his version of it, because from what I understand, Brent, it's the first time you've ever shot a shotgun. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it was a first for both Dr. Joe and myself, and I almost didn't do it. If you rewind earlier into the morning, I was probably the only person to not catch a fish, but I consider that a success because I didn't like hook myself in the face or the arm or something, which almost happened. It was brutal. So we went up to the skeet shooting range, and I've never fired a gun before, and seriously thought about just like not doing it. But after 3 or 4 groups, I said, you know, I'm going to. When are you ever going to be back here and get this chance again? This really nice guy named Warren kind of had a grandfatherly way about him. I get up to stall number 4, and the way it worked was, you know, after everybody gets a practice shot, you've got the first shooter gets a clay pigeon, and if they hit it, they hit it. But if they don't, they can be knocked out by shooter number 2. And then if that misses, shooter number 3 can knock out 1 and 2. So that's how you get down very quickly in some of those rounds from 5 shooters to 1. And so shooter number 1, I didn't realize was Joe. And so when it was time to go live, Joe hits his target. All I knew was that 1 had hit. 2 misses, 3 misses, and even though I'd missed my practice shot, I hit that first shot that counted. And you could hear the audible, like, I don't know, people were kind of amazed because I had made a fairly well-known, I had never fired a gun before. And as it progressed, it came down to me and Joe. And of course, at this point, I don't know that it's Joe. I just know that whoever's left is in stall number 1 because I was so focused in on the moment, I didn't know who that was. And They said, okay, whoever hits it first, which is a different dynamic than, if the person misses, then you shoot. And without knowing it was Joe, I said, I'm going to let whoever's in 1 go first and then settle into the shot, rather than trying to do it quickly, which was a mistake because Joe nailed it. Hats off to Joe for that. And I really thought I was out completely until Cowboy Cody decides, because we had such a large group, that we're going to let all the second-place finishers into the final round. So I got to show that my first round wasn't a fluke, and knocked out 3 or 4 people in the second round, and made a good showing for myself. And I think I got a little bit of revenge on Joe because I lasted longer in the final round, so it evened out a little bit. But you did knock me out, Joe. We both had a blast. Neither of us had shot a gun before, and it was just phenomenal experience. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be a new hobby for me, but it was a heck of a lot of fun.
Okay, Joe, what's your take on that?
Well, I kind of told everybody that I had neber shot a gun before, but in fact, I had grown up with them. I had been shooting guns since I was probably a year and a half old. I probably logged 10,000 hours of shooting. This was like, it was kind of like a cakewalk for me. I don't know. I can't believe I didn't knock everybody out. No, I'm just kidding. It was actually so much fun. There's something to be said when you first feel the kick of a 12-gauge shotgun in your shoulder, and that's something I had never experienced. And I figured, my thought was, being up here, and knowing that there's people from all over the country that probably had shotguns, my first thought was, make sure I don't shoot myself in the face. So once I got that handled, I did okay. Then I actually said, all right, now the first one was good. Now I could just kind of focus on hitting stuff out in front of me, and I think we'll just see how it goes. Thankfully, I grew up with Nintendo and played a lot of Duck Hunt.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I was golden. If Terry Latham and Irv Struble weren't as good as they were, man, I probably would have had this thing rolling all the way to now. So.
And by the way, Brent mentioned Cowboy Cody, and I will tell you that yes, that is his name. He is a cowboy, and his name is Cody. And fantastic people that run that ranch there.
Well, that's so funny. And Brent, by the way, if you want to make it a new hobby, my son is more than happy to oblige next time you're in Atlanta.
Okay.
Brent actually failed to mention, you guys, that the 2 people he knocked out were not yours truly and Tyler Brenchley. So the 2 of us were the losers that got knocked out. Like, right. I actually shot 2 shots, and I know I have better aim than that, and most of you know that too. So
let's not say losers.
The non-first place winners.
Yeah.
Non-first place winners. So Pilar, what? Well, I saw you. What Jersey? Now, beforehand, we saw you with your cowgirl hat. You're not wearing it right now, but there's also.
Can I put it on?
There you go. Perfect. Put it on. There you go. Because that goes with the next question, which is, there's a picture of you on a horse.
Oh.
So tell us about your horse adventure and the covered wagons.
Okay, so first of all, they had made it, they put us in these covered wagons, and they kind of handpicked people that were going to go on the horses. There were 9 horses. And I think my hat is lopsided, so you guys are going to have to deal with that today. So we go in these covered wagons, and then they explain that these are like original covered wagons, and they have 2 of them, and they're bringing us up over this brush, this sagebrush, and we're hitting these, like, you don't want to call them potholes, but these like
craters.
Like it,
yeah.
And you have to understand, like, we're on, they're modified. So, like, there's another axle, there's another set of wheels, and we actually have tires on ours. And we're sitting there, and I think at one point, like, I popped a disc. Thank God, I have a lot of chiropractors around me. But we were all sitting there. And the funniest part about it is we're going up, and poor Mike Mallory. So Mike Mallory is sitting on one of those 3-legged stools in the middle of all of us. I've never seen terror on someone's face like that, because we didn't know if he was going to flip out the back. Like, we were holding on to him at one point. He was pale. He hit every bump 10 times, and the chair was wiggling, and he just really kept it cool. But, oh, dear Lord, I mean, Brent, you were on it. We just had a blast with it. So then
we were ripping him mercilessly.
Oh, okay, yeah, we kind of were. Mike, if you're watching. we do love you, but we kind of saw an opportunity. Okay, so then they take us to the salt mines, which was amazing, and we got to like actually put salt in these little what would you call them? Little jar containers that they gave us. And this salt is how many years old? Is it?
Thousands.
Right, and we literally Brent, and I literally put it up to my mouth. It's the saltiest salt you ever want to taste. It's like it was just like the coolest thing. So we're walking back, and then they were going to pick another 9 people to go on the horses. All of a sudden, our fearless leader, Charles Frederick Funky III, says Labriola's on a horse. Now, I know he had, and Brent, you'll go with me on this one. I know he had some kind of agenda putting the city folk on the horses. Well, Mama's afraid of heights. And so I'm up there going, and you're a lot higher than you think you are. And those pictures are me smiling. If you guys saw the expletives in my head at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. And so it ended up being very, very cool. It was a real cool experience. A lot of the guys were kind of around. I was kind of lagging behind. I mean, I'm just a little bit extra cautious. My horse was adorable, great. They all were there. There was a couple that got a little rowdy. Brent, I digress on that part. I'll let you tell that at another time. But, I mean, it was so cool. I mean, I got to tell you, I had white knuckles the whole time, but I am glad I did it. It's now my competitive nature. I'm talking to a couple girls who actually train people on horseback riding, so I'm going to go take lessons just because I just hated being that scared. It was so cool, though.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing.
That's awesome. Now, one thing Pilar mentioned was the salt, and that's, part of the strongest memories I have of that event, because that area, the Star Valley, and specifically where the Star Valley Trout Ranch sits on, is known for its amazing water source there that it accesses, and also the salt flat that Pilar was referring to. So Tyler, can you expand a little bit on that and how it sort of symbolizes what ASEA is all about as well?
Sure, yeah. So like Pilar said, we got these little, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got a little water thing on there. We got to do a short hike, so anybody that's worried about this trip as being excruciatingly hard, no, it's a quick jaunt up a hill pretty much in all reality. But we got to go up to this spring, which we got to listen to Tyler talk about a little bit, and he explained just a couple of the things about it. This water, according to some scientists, he's got PhDs and stuff, came in and tested this water that's literally 2,000 years old. So they were telling us that the water that fell in the rain 2,000 years ago is now just barely coming to the surface and coming out of this spring. So we got to hike down and dip our not only collect some, which we put in here, but we also have a water bottle that Pilar has in her hand that we got to fill up. And I kid you not, the best tasting water I've ever drank. It came right, I mean, it was coming out of like, there was like 5 or 6 logs that's covered in moss. We were all a little bit scared. And they pulled out the water. And when you look at it, I mean, this is clear. There's not a floaty in it. There's nothing in it that you could find. And it was, I mean, they told us just a little bit of story of it. It comes out constantly 49 degrees on the hottest day in July and August and the coldest day in January. It's 49 degrees. It never freezes, and it comes out not only a constant temperature but a constant flow. It's always the same, and I think that that's very symbolic of really just going down to the plant. I took down one of Brent's guests because she flew into Salt Lake a day early, and we went to the bottling plant, and just to go through that and to know that they have ASEA the exact same every time they test it. It's just really symbolic of the whole how nature has created this perfect water and how we have turned around and created this perfect supplement that we can use for our redox signaling molecules inside our body. I think it was amazing.
Awesome. Fantastic. So we can't have a trip without food, can we? So, Dr. Joe, from what I hear, there's no one better to talk about the cuisine than you. So, how was the cuisine at the event? And I think there's a story behind this. I'm curious.
Well, I can tell you this is that I was at Wyoming once. We were driving through Colorado to go to South Dakota one time, and we stopped in Wyoming at a little truck stop, and it was the kind of thing that when we walked in there, the record stopped and everybody looked because all the New Yorkers had walked in. And I can tell you that the food in this little truck stop was amazing. So I kept this in the back of my brain saying, Wyoming probably has pretty freaking good food. Well, when we got there, it was kind of magnified because we took all the food that was just the Wyoming natural food and then put 2 classical chefs in front of that food. And now you got some food that you can't even believe. So I always know that ASEA takes really good care of us on these trips. We've won several of them, and they've been spot on every time as to how well they've really, it's been first-class amenities all the way. Now you're out in the middle of the woods, and you're sitting like just in the middle of this like wilderness practically, and you're thinking, how good is this food going to be? Let me tell you guys, every single meal, one meal was better than the next. It just, and every time I started to get just a little bit, just the tiniest bit hungry, the next like 6-course meal would come out. And then we would walk and hike and do all this stuff, and then it's like, you know what, I'm getting a little bit hungry, there's the next meal. So I was ecstatic. I mean, these guys had a smoker that they built themselves down into the ground with 800-pound doors that they made with a winch that you needed to actually use to open them up. They are so serious about their food. I actually wanted to cry. I was so happy every time I looked at it. You know, it was the kind of thing that, like, if you've ever been in that restaurant that you say, I think I need to just eat a little bit more, but I can't because I'm so full, but that is so freaking good that I just can't stop eating. That's kind of the way I felt for 4 straight days, and I think Tyler can back me up because we just kept trying to figure out who would outdo one to the other every single meal. So it was incredible. Absolutely, absolutely amazing.
At one point, I heard Tyler go, "Come on, Joe, let's go." And like, I think it was like the prime rib night or something.
Take a breath.
Or the lamb. It was, they couldn't even breathe, and they were still going up to get more food. It was.
All right, glad you didn't disappoint us there, Joe. Represented well. All right. Okay, well, let's go ahead and wrap it up with Pilar here. Now, when I was there last year, I remember having just some great bonding sessions with a lot of the other associates there at the event. I think that was mentioned a little earlier. But if you could share your experience, what it was like at that final night, at that recognition dinner and campfire gathering, and any other closing comments on why everyone really needs to shoot to be there at next year's event.
You know, it's very interesting that you bring up that closing night because I thought that that was one of the pinnacle ASEA moments in our ASEA 2.5-year ASEA career. You know, like I think it was Brent that was saying earlier, you know, you got to say hello to friends that you haven't seen for a while, and then you got to meet new friends. The way that they set up even the fly fishing, you know, you were in teams with other people that you didn't know. I was in with this girl, Erin, who's fantastic. She's on Brent's team now. And Irv Strugel, who, you know, Irv and Marion Strugel are wonderful people. I might not have ever been able to, like, have the opportunity to talk to them. And you see different people forging these relationships, which was so wonderful. And so then the last night comes, and you guys have to understand, you know, we started everything Wednesday night. We went all day Thursday and then all day Friday, right? And so on Friday night, we did our dinner, and then we had this really cool thing that I actually have in front of us. We were able to brand the ASEA logo. So they gave us, this was all like reclaimed wood, and then they had one of their coins on it. It said the ASEA Ascent on it, and then we actually got to brand this. So every person that earned the trip was able to do their own branding. That was really, really cool. I know this is not smell-o-vision as far as Paul, but it smells fantastic. We got, you know, it was awards, it was things like that, and then quietly everybody walked up, and they had a little bonfire set up for us. And then Tyler pulls out, like, this guy, he's amazing to me because he's just such a guy with so many tricks up his sleeve. And Tyler Brenchley, I'm not talking about you, although you have some tricks up your sleeve. So, but Tyler Norton pulls out his guitar, and then they have these lists of songs, and we're making s'mores by the campfire. And, you know, there's a lot of you that are from the Midwest and the Northwest, and I think it's probably one of my most favorite areas of the world. And we're from New York, so when we look up at the stars at night, we don't see them. And now you're seeing, you feel like you're in a planetarium because you can see everything above you. And the camaraderie, the people singing together, I mean, I honestly say, we actually sang Kumbaya next to a campfire, which was very it was very weird. But no, it was amazing. So just the way that they close everything up, this wasn't, we've been on the Mediterranean cruise. We've earned some trips with the ASEA, and I have to say, this is the best one. And every person that told us that we were going on this, they said, just pay attention, this is the best one yet. And just as an aside, I learned the coolest thing. Now, a lot of you might know this, but forget, we're from Jersey, that when you see a night sky like that, you can actually see satellites pass by through the night sky. And Chuck Funky taught me that. And I was yelling at Joe, like, you can actually see satellites. And we were watching for them with Cowboy Cody. It was just so cool. And I can't describe it. And, you know, you came home, and what we're doing right now is we're getting ready to do the next thing, whatever it is. Listen, for all of you that are out there, they have these trips set up for a reason. If you haven't hit base camp, call your upline and hit it now. Hit the Ascent trip. This is literally one of the best trips we've ever been on. It brought you back to home, back to Mother Nature, gave you a reason why you're doing this. It was different. It wasn't all that hustle and bustle. This was literally probably the best trip we've ever been on with the ASEA or not. I'm going to tell you guys again, whatever it takes, make your goal. You have a year to earn it. You need gold 6 times or platinum 3 times or a combination of both. It doesn't matter. Kim Marie Larson is a genius. Emily Hollinshead is a genius because these guys, along with corporate, put together such an amazing thing for us. And I got to tell you, you know, I made the statement, ASEA is our home and we're not going anywhere. And I think that every one of you that want to stay with the ASEA, that are going to stay with ASEA because it's the best ever, you know, you really need to be on these trips and be with these. Now, Paul, David, Foster, and Terry, I know you're out there looking. We missed you. I'm not going to lie. We did miss you. However, it was still one of the greatest trips we've ever been on.
Cool.
Oh, by the way, Tyler Brinkley tried to teach us how to water ski. For those of you that are lucky might see those videos. It was not pretty. Right, Brent?
No, it wasn't.
It was not pretty.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yes, I know. They only let us. You only go to one of these trips one time, so be sure to shoot to qualify and get there as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
All right. I want to thank all of our phenomenal guests tonight. Thank you, guys. Also want to thank my co-host there, David. Any last comments, David?
Listening to this, I will be there next year. Mark my words.
Fantastic. Looking forward to having you give all your feedback and input next year. Awesome.
Yeah.
And be sure to tune in next week. I just want to give a little preview. Next week we're going to have another Renew party, but we've got some additional guest rooms coming across the country, some additional product experiences. So be sure to tune in next week. We'll post that banner by the end of this week. Thanks, everyone, again for tuning in. Go out and have a fantastic rest of your evening, rest of the week, and I'll see you later. Take care, everybody.
See you later. Bye.